The shocking truth about Noah's wife, how she survived the flood at 3 a.m. The skies had never looked so ominous. Thunder rolled like a freight train crashing through the stillness of that darkened night. And then, without warning, the rain began to pour, turning the world outside into a churning sea, a scene straight from a nightmare. But amidst the chaos, there was one house that stood firm, nestled on a hillside, like a fortress against the storm. It was Noah's home, but it held a chilling secret, a rumor that was whispered among the villagers. Noah's wife, Naamah, had faced the flood alone at 3 a.m., armed with nothing but courage and an unshakable will to survive. As the water began to rise, strange things happened. The animals, usually restless, grew eerily quiet. Naamah felt it in her bones, that something was off. The wind howled like a banshee, shaking the walls, rattling her heart. Images danced in her mind, visions of a world submerged, of people's desperate screams drowning in the dark. Strewn about the house were cryptic signs, worn-out pages from old texts that spoke of prophecies, whispers of shadows, warnings from the past that now felt tangibly alive. She could almost hear them calling her, every second ticked louder in her ears. Panic gripped her chest like a vice. Could she really trust Noah? Was he keeping secrets about this storm? Was there more to the flood than just a furious act of nature? She grappled with thoughts as shadows twisted in the corners of her vision. In a world collapsing around her, Naamah felt an ocean of emotions, fear, confusion, but also a flicker of something else, determination. She wouldn't sit and wait for the waters to claim her. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Naamah reached for the doors, thrusting them open against the raging wind, racing towards the rising waters with nerves tingling and her heart pounding like a war drum. What would she find out there? The chaos outside seemed almost alive, trees snapping like twigs, the howl of the wind mixing with the cries of 1,000 frantic voices, all begging for help, all begging for her to make a decision that could change everything. But there was something moving among the flood, something beyond fear, something that ignited her resolve. It beckoned her, drawing her closer to the depths of mystery as the storm intensifies around her. Could Naamah really uncover the truth buried within the flood? Or would she drown in the shadows of secrets? The rain lashed against Naamah's face like icy needles as she stepped into the chaos. Her heart raced with every gust of wind that threatened to sweep her away. The water around her ankles surged and swirled. She dared to glance back at the house behind her, its walls trembling under nature's wrath, yet steadfast. But this wasn't her sanctuary anymore, it was a prison. The flood beckoned her toward destiny. As she moved further into the storm, the frantic cries began to morph. They became clearer, more distinctly human. It was unsettling. Was she truly hearing voices from the depths? Each moment felt surreal, like a warped reflection in a darkened mirror. She squinted through the downpour, searching. Somewhere amidst the tempest, shadows flickered. Noah had spoken of shadows as ancient harbingers, hidden figures watching their every move. Did he know they were alive? She felt their lurking presence as if they were feeding off her fear. A deep breath steadied her resolve. She had to know the truth. Did those from the shadows hold the answers she sought? I won't be afraid. She shouted into the wind, her voice almost lost in the cacophony. The words hung in the air, echoing back at her, a promise to herself. Moving forward, she splashed through the growing current, calling out softly towards the fears that lurked just beyond her sight, willing the darkness to reveal its secrets. Then she saw it, glowing eyes piercing through the sheets of rain. The figure stood motionless, a stark contrast against the fury of the storm. A wild mix of dread and fascination crashed within her like thunder. Was it a rescuer? Or something much more sinister? Naamah took a trembling step closer. The figure stepped forward, illuminated briefly by a flash of lightning, and she gasped. It was a woman, hair flowing like dark tendrils, eyes full of tempestuous rage. Naamah felt as if the storm had taken human form. "You shouldn't be here," the woman hissed, her voice sharp as the wind itself. "Fate is a treacherous path, and you're dancing on its edge." Naamah's stomach twisted at the warning. "What do you mean? What is happening? Why is the flood coming?" The woman's laughter echoed hauntingly, blended with the sounds of the storm. "Floods don't just happen, they're chosen. Secrets churn beneath these waters. Your husband holds a key, but he fears what might unlock." A shiver raced down Naamah's spine. How could Noah have known? Or had he kept her in the dark? Before she could respond, the figure vanished, swallowed whole by the dark waves, leaving only a chilling certainty behind. Heart racing, Naamah stepped back, catching her breath. She had to find Noah. She needed to confront him before the flood claimed not just her home but the truth itself. That a piercing scream shattered the air, pulling her abruptly from her thoughts. The voice was all too familiar, echoing in her mind. Was it real? "Naamah!" A desperate cry came from the house, pulling her back. "Noah!" She turned sharply, anxiety flooding her veins. The storm raged on as she raced back toward the glimmer of light in the doorway, but every step brought more questions. What did he know? Why were shadows dancing around their lives? Suddenly, the welcome light flickered ominously, then died. She was left staring at the expanse of shadow ahead, hands trembling like leaves in the wind. What awaited her when she stepped through that door? Had she waited too long? The answers loomed, but the darkness seemed to taunt her, whispering that they were just one step away, one heartbeat from unleashing something she couldn't even begin to comprehend. Naamah took a hesitant step forward into the darkness. The air was thick, heavy with uncertainty and dread. Her heart almost drowned out the deafening sound of the storm, but it was Noah's voice, filled with desperation, that pushed her onward. "Naamah!" It was closer now, echoing through the dark like a candle's flicker against the shadows. With each step, the ground felt unsteady beneath her, the floodwaters swirling ominously around her ankles. She clung to the fleeting hope that he was safe, that he needed her. Just as she reached the threshold, she paused, taking a moment to prepare herself. The interior of their home felt foreign in the low light, shadows looping and twisting along the walls like ghosts of their past. The faint scent of rain mixed with something unfamiliar, a metallic tang that sent a chill through her bones. "Are you in here?" She called out, but her voice quaked, swallowed by the heavy darkness. She stepped inside fully, feeling the oppressive weight of it push against her chest. The air was stale, like a forgotten library, filled with old secrets left unsaid. Then, another cry resonated from deeper within the house, and it wasn't Noah's. It was a strangled sound, a mix of sobs and gasps. Panic surged as Naamah moved toward the sound, her heart pounding faster than the storm. The hall seemed endless, the shadows dancing maliciously as if taunting her hesitation. With each step, memories flooded back to her, uninvited happy memories shared with Noah turned sour in the face of the unknown that now threatened them both. How had everything spiraled into chaos so swiftly? The thought barely crossed her mind before she reached the door at the end of the hall, where the sounds crescendoed into desperate urgency. "Naamah!" There was a note of terror in Noah's voice now, snapping her out of her reverie. She pushed the door open and braced for what lay beyond. The room was dim, lit only by the sporadic flashes of lightning that illuminated the flickering shadows. He stood there, eyes wild, face pale. But it was the sight behind him that seized her heart. Water coursed into the room, reflecting fragments of light and menacing shapes' bodies. "Noah! What is happening?" Naamah's voice trembled as she took in the sight. The flood had breached their sanctuary, surging closer, preparing to consume everything they had known. "They're going to find out," he shouted, hands shaking. "I didn't think it could come to this." "Find out what?" She screamed, panic starting to ripple through her. What do you keep hiding from me? He turned toward her, desperation etched into his features. Naamah, I thought I could stop it. I thought I could protect you from the shadows. With a crash, something broke through the window, generating a cascade of shattered glass and swirling water. Naamah flinched as shards sprayed across the room, slicing the silence, but Noah stood rooted to the spot, transfixed by the rising chaos. Secrets, he murmured, almost to himself, and the tremor in his voice revealed a raw truth. What secrets? Naamah demanded, the urgency in her heart rising to a piercing shriek, and then, before he could answer, the room was filled with an echoing laughter, otherworldly, haunting. The shadows at the margins began to sway, and from them emerged figures, vague outlines that bristled with malice and intent. Naamah's breath hitched as she realized they weren't alone. The storm outside was nothing compared to the darkness that lurked within the walls of their home. Noah! She shouted again, the fear clawing at her throat, but it slipped away like an echo, drowned out by the sinister laughter. Everything was spiraling. She grabbed Noah's arm, and the moment felt like an eternity suspended in chaos. What lay beyond this door was a flood of nightmares, and she could feel the storm both inside and outside closing in on them. What have we unleashed? As they stood there, immobilized by fear, she could sense the answers drifting ever closer, sliding just beyond their reach. What had Noah been hiding, and would it tear them apart before they could even grasp it? The shadows closed in on them, and Naamah knew. She was one step away from losing everything. What secrets would emerge from the depths, and would they be ready to face the truth? Naamah's grip tightened on Noah's arm as the laughter wrapped around them, an unbearable weight that threatened to crush her spirit. The figures flickered in and out of existence, their faces hidden yet their intentions all too clear. Chilled to the bone, she felt the water rising, a wave of dread surging with it. Noah! She yelled, her voice cracking. We have to get out of here. The urgency in her voice seemed to bounce off the walls, echoing back to mock her desperation. No. His voice was a sharp plea, tinged with a sense of finality that filled her with terror. You don't understand. We can't just run. And let what happens, happen. Naamah's breath quickened. What are you hiding? What have you done? The words crackled in the air, hanging between them like a noose. Noah's gaze drifted to the gathering shadows, fear edging his features. I had no choice, he whispered, a confession barely clinging to the surface. They won't stop until they take what's theirs. A figure stepped closer, the laughter subsiding into a low, sinister chuckle that reverberated in the room. Naamah's pulse quickened, the shadows coiling around the entity's shape. You think you can hide from the truth, Noah? It hissed, voice dripping with malice. Naamah's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the light of lightning's brief flicker. The contours morphed into something familiar yet grotesque, a warped reflection of herself, eyes dark and hollow, a warning of calamity. You have no idea what he's wrapped you in, Naamah. No. This isn't real. She pressed her palms against her ears, trying to drown out the taunting voice. Disbelief coursed through her, fueling her fear as she turned to Noah, searching for reassurance, a fragment of the man she loved. Noah! She pleaded again, desperation flooding her veins. That he met her gaze, his own anguish echoing back. Naamah, listen to me. I thought the deal would protect us. But it only opened the door to what? She snapped, shaking him gently. What door? The shadows erupted with laughter again, the night thickening around them. You've awakened us, Noah, the entity sneered, releasing a low growl that vibrated the room. You've drawn her into your web, and now she'll pay the price for your folly. In that moment, Naamah felt it, the strangling grip of despair squeezing her heart. What do you want? She shouted, voice trembling, unsure if she was addressing the shadows or Noah. What is it you want from us? The malevolent form stepped closer, its presence suffocating, and the air crackled with dark energy. You think this is a choice? You've both been chosen, it hissed, pouring its shadows over them. You'll become part of us, whether you want it or not. No. She screamed, disintegrating into a fit of panic. She stumbled back, only to find Noah at her side, his face a mask of agony and resolution. I'll protect you, he vowed, but the shadows surged in response, gripping him with icy tendrils. Noah! Don't! She cried, lunging forward, but it was too late. He was pulled into the darkness, their fingers slipping apart like grains of sand through her grip. A scream tore from her throat as despair twisted her stomach, the flood loomed closer, an all-consuming vortex. She darted to the door, adrenaline surging, only to slam into the figures that had emerged. They shifted, their forms colliding against hers like a wall impenetrable and overwhelming. Naamah! Noah's voice echoed in the distance, a haunting plea. You must find the truth. What truth? She howled, panic engulfing her. The truth that has kept us alive until now. His words echoed in her mind, but was survival even possible now? She was trapped, both by water and shadows, yet deep down, a flicker of defiance ignited within her. Had they truly unleashed something darker? Did she even know the man she'd married? Each moment dragging her deeper into uncertainty, she closed her eyes, searching for something, some way out. What truth could Noah be holding? And would finding it save them, or would it destroy everything she believed in? Naamah's chest heaved as she pressed against the cold, slick wall. The laughter twisted around her like serpents, constricting, suffocating. Dread pooled in her stomach, thick and heavy, as the entities whispered secrets into the depths of her mind, filling her with dread. Noah! She screamed again, desperation lacing her voice. I need you. Please, come back. The shadows began to shift, forming slithering shapes that crept closer. She stumbled back, feeling the icy tendrils brush against her skin, probing, searching. The laughter intensified, echoing in her ears like an impending storm. Find the truth, echoed Noah's haunting words in her head, each repetition amplifying her anxiety. What truth? What could she possibly uncover in this nightmare? Her heart raced, each beat like a drum, a chilling reminder of the darkness closing in. She forced her eyes open, scanning the room. The lightning flickered once more, casting fleeting glimpses of hope. In one of those brief flashes, she caught sight of the grotesque version of herself, taunting, smiling with sinister glee. You think you can escape? The figure purred, voice smooth as silk yet laced with malice. You will become part of the darkness. No. Naamah shouted, clenching her fists. I refuse to let you do this. Her defiance ignited something within her. She could feel the fear melting away, replaced by a burning resolve. She recalled the love she had for Noah, the promise they shared. She wouldn't let it die in this hell. Before she could think twice, Naamah lunged towards the swirling mass, teeth gritted. What do you want? She hissed, fueled by adrenaline. If I have to face this, then bring it. The shadows recoiled, momentarily taken aback by her fierce determination. Doubt suppressed the laughter, leaving a heavy silence hanging in the air. Clever girl, the entity intoned, curiosity twisting its words. You seek the truth, but can you handle it? I don't care. She spat, each word trembling but strong. Tell me what you want. A flash of intense light erupted, blinding her momentarily. When her vision cleared, she found herself standing in a different place, a dim, long-abandoned room filled with remnants of her past. Framed photos lined the walls, but the faces were blurred and warped. She gasped as she approached one, the image of herself standing with Noah, except he looked different, shadows flickering around him. That's not how it was. She shouted, gripping the frame. You're lying. The dark entity swirled around her, the figure of her tormentor twisted and dark. You see, don't you? He kept secrets from you. Noah loves me. She protested, tears stinging her eyes. Did he love you enough? It challenged, shadows spilling like black ink. Did he protect you from the truth? Every doubt she had ever felt constricted like a noose around her neck. She wanted to scream. Did he love her enough? Had his choices set them on this path? No. This can't be true. She cried, backing away, feeling the familiar chill creeping back into her bones, but as she turned, Noah stood before her, trapped behind a barrier of darkness, his face twisted in agony. Naamah. Listen. You need to remember. His voice fractured her heart, each plea pulling at her soul. Remember what? She screamed, desperation clawing her throat. The pact. The secret. He yelled, the shadows clawing at him. You are the key. Break the bond. The realization struck her harder than the crashing waves of fear. She had to confront whatever darkness lingered within both of them. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the truth they shared, the secret that entwined them both like a vine. The shadows thickened around her, whispering sweet lies, but she wouldn't give in. Not now. What if breaking that bond meant no longer being together? The thought staggered her, but she steadied herself. Love was worth fighting for, risking everything for. But at what cost? Naamah took a step forward, determination fueling her every move. I won't let you take him. Then you will have to give up everything, the entity hissed, dark laughter curling around her words, teasing the fading light. A shudder ran through her. Was she ready to sacrifice it all? The air pulsed with tension as shadows threatened to consume them both. And in the choking darkness, a flicker of hope ignited within her. Maybe, just maybe, the truth would set them free, but would she uncover it in time, or would the shadows claim them both? The air thickened, a suffocating blanket closing around Naamah. She could feel the darkness pulsing, each beat in perfect rhythm with her racing heart. The shadows whispered, promising knowledge, freedom, but all she could hear was Noah's anguished cry echoing in the void. Naamah. His voice was nearly drowned out by the shifting mass surrounding her. You have to trust me. Trust you. She spat, anger erupting alongside her fear. She could hardly recognize him behind the writhing mass. You're trapped. How can I trust you? The flicker of lights danced in the corners of the room, momentarily letting her see his face alive with desperation. Shadows clung to him, twisting the features she loved into grotesque mockeries. I'm not who you think anymore. I can't explain, but I need you. The truth isn't what it seems. A sudden surge of power crackled through the air. The entity laughed, a sinister sound that slithered around her like a serpent. How ironic. You seek to uncover the truth, yet you can't decide whom to trust. Step closer, and perhaps you'll unveil what lies beneath the surface of your precious memories. Naamah hesitated, feet rooted to the ground. No. Swear you'll protect him, the entity sneered, and I might let you recall how you both came to be here. She wrestled with her conflicting emotions. Memories? Fine. Show me. She shouted, each word an act of defiance against the oppressing force tightening around her resolve. The atmosphere crackled. In her mind's eye, images swirled, dancing from shadow to shadow until they settled staring right back at her, a moment that changed everything. Naamah gasped as a vision enveloped her. She saw Noah kneeling, dark waters sweeping around him, his face lined with fear yet brimming with determination. He stood before a great, towering altar engraved with symbols she couldn't understand, clutching a weathered stone amulet, its glow pulsing with energy. Noah! What are you doing? Her voice rang out in the void, but he couldn't hear her. The flood is coming. It's the only way to fight back. He shouted, eyes fierce. I'm doing this for us. Images burned bright, and suddenly she was there beside him, the cold water rising to their ankles and a storm raging around them. You'll drown. She cried, fear gripping her throat. I won't let that happen. I made a pact. He lifted the amulet, its light surged and pierced the darkness surrounding them. What pact? She shouted, desperation spilling into every word. Naamah, if we don't complete the ritual, everything depends on it. Trust me. He was frantic, clenching the amulet tighter. Just when she reached for him, the scene fractured. Stop! She screamed, finding herself back in the abandoned room, shadows swirling faster, squeezing the air from her lungs. What do you want from us? Listen to your heart, Naamah, the entity whispered, its voice soft but dripping with malice. Can you handle the truth? You may not like what you discover. She was yelling again, her voice rising with crescendo. What did he do? Do you really want to know? The entity teased, shadows thickening dangerously, pressing in like a vice. Noah! She shouted, desperation flooding her. Tell me. Suddenly, a crack of thunder rumbled outside, deep and resonant, shaking the walls of the room. A bittersweet sense of impending doom crashed against her, but the truth beckoned like a light in the dark, a glimmer of hope. As the shadows coiled tightly around her, Naamah took another step forward, every ounce of determination rooted into the core of her being. I'll face it. I can handle anything, even if it means losing him. With that, the swirling shadows hesitated, the laughter faltering. The tension in the air froze, awaiting revelation. Naamah's heart slammed against her ribs, realization dawning, the true nature of their bond and the pact that had ensnared them in this nightmarish labyrinth. But as she braced herself for whatever came next, the last words of the entity echoed ominously. You may not be ready for what lies ahead, for the truth you seek will alter everything. In that chilling moment, Naamah knew this wasn't merely a fight for survival, it was a battle for their very souls. What awaited her as she pushed deeper into the shadows? The grip of fear tightened. Would she be strong enough not just to uncover the truth, but to break free? The shadows pulsed, teased, almost playfully gripping Naamah as she stood poised to delve deeper into their secrets. Her breath caught in her throat, the promise of knowledge danced in the air alongside the oppressive darkness. Show me. She demanded, her voice barely eclipsing the furious wind outside. She took a step forward, a small act of defiance, but the shadows reacted, choking the space around her with a rapid intensity. They twisted, coiling around her limbs like vines, threatening to pull her into an abyss where the light flickered pathetically. Foolish girl, the entity hissed, its laughter vibrating through her bones, cold and sinister. You crave the truth, yet are you prepared to bear the weight of its revelation? She felt that weight, heavy and unsettling. The dreams she once held, the illusions of a normal life, were they really worth unraveling? No, the thrill of knowing overpowered her doubt. Show me. She repeated, her tone steeped in determination. This time, she flung her arms wide, willing the shadows away with raw willpower. The world around her shimmered, twisting, spiraling into a new vision. She blinked as images flared to life. Noah, wild-eyed and frantic, struggling at the altar beneath a deluge of rushing water. The air thickened with the scent of rain, earthy and electric. Noah! Naamah cried out again, desperately straining to grasp what she witnessed. His face, caught in the flickering glow of the amulet, was a canvas of desperation and resolve. In that moment, it felt like time itself paused to gaze at his sacrifice. Please, Naamah. I need you. He yelled, and though she couldn't hear his voice as she once had, she felt its echo deep in her heart. Everything around them crackled with untold energy. She could see the symbols carved into the altar glowing ominously in the half-light, as if alive. But then she noticed something else. A figure cloaked in shadow, watching with intent, its eyes two unnatural orbs of malice glistening in the dark, feeding off Noah's desperation. Naamah's guts churned, her heart raced. Noah, get away from there. She was screaming, but no sound would reach him. Instead, an invisible force jerked her closer to the scene. The torrent of water surged, rising like a tide determined to snuff out the last flicker of bravery she so admired in him. Suddenly, the altar split open, a crack that bled accursed light. Noah stumbled back as the creature, the puppet master of this nightmare, extended his hand toward him, beckoning with a voice that dripped honeyed venom. Join me, and I'll ensure your survival, it cooed, seductive and terrible. No. It's a lie. Naamah hissed through clenched teeth, anger igniting a fire deep within. The reality twisted, and as her surroundings changed, she lunged forward, desperation fueling each movement. The shadows tried to grasp at her but burned against her resolve, their grip loosening with every heartbeat. Naamah! Noah cried again, his eyes locking onto hers, searching for the reassurance she wished she could provide. The shadows surged between them, illuminating the truth. What had he done? What bond had he forged with the creature? The amulet shimmered brighter with Noah's growing turmoil, snapping their connection. You must trust me. He begged, his voice breaking her heart, and then, a blinding flash split the darkness, sending her sprawling into a mental void. Naamah gasped for air, feeling unmoored, her heart galloping wildly. She was awake, yet so much felt unreal, but the weight of his plea clung to her, his need for her, his fight. The entity laughed again, an echoing reminder of the cost required for understanding. Do you grasp the truth now? It sneered, curling closer, a predator stalking its prey. Naamah stood tall, defiance burning bright. Yes. She whispered fiercely, feeling something stir within her, a strength she never knew she had. Show me everything. And with that proclamation, the shadows recoiled, the tempest swirling at her feet, a vicious storm awaiting the slightest crack for it to unleash its fury. What lay ahead was uncertain, but one thing was painfully clear: the battle for Noah's soul was just beginning, and she was no longer just a spectator. Can you survive the flood of truths yet to come? The entity taunted, and just as abruptly, the room plunged into chaotic darkness once more, leaving Naamah teetering on the precipice of revelation. The air felt thin as she braced herself for what was bound to come next. Would the truth be more devastating than the lies she had lived? Naamah's senses were on fire as the shadows wrapped around her once more. They shifted, swirling in patterns that teased her, whispering promises and threats alike. Each breath felt like a battle, the air was laden with secrets, pushing against her like a living presence. Reveal it. She implored, her voice growing steadier, louder. The shadows pulsed, quivering at her insistence. An unnatural light flared, illuminating fragments of truth bound in memory and pain. Suddenly, she was thrust into a whirlwind of images, shifting scenes layered over one another like old film reels. The first scene set her stomach churning: Noah, younger, more innocent, as he stood at the edge of a forest, surrounded by darkness, the amulet glimmering against his chest. The shadows were less hungry then, clinging to the edges of his vision like lingering doubts. Why didn't you see? A voice echoed, sharp and familiar, her voice. You turned away, Noah. You let it take you. The scene morphed, her words tracing through time, revealing moments of temptation when he had chosen the easy path, turning his back on the light. Naamah felt the anger boiling within her, a tumultuous wave crashing against her resolve. But before she could process the weight of it all, the images shifted once more. They fell into chaos, the colors bleeding into one another as winds howled through the void. She stood now at the altar alongside Noah, but something was all wrong. A churning whirlpool of water loomed above them, teetering over the altar's edge. Dark laughter slithered through the air. The shadowy figure she had glimpsed before now stood clearer, an embodiment of foreboding. It grinned, revealing sharp teeth, a specter twisting around Noah's essence. He called to you, but can you reach him in time? Panic gripped her, sweat beaded her brow. No. She shouted, her voice fueled by determination. I want to let you take him. In that moment, an electric surge crackled in the air, bold, unyielding. The amulet glowed, brightening with a fierce energy that pulsed against the shadows. Naamah felt its warmth deep within her, drawing her nearer to the truth she sought to grasp. Do you believe you can break the cycle? The entity hissed, its voice splitting the air like thunder. That you can withstand the darkness? The questions lingered, squeezing at her heart, but Naamah drew strength from Noah's image, his blue eyes wide with fear yet unyielding. I don't just believe, I know. I will break it. As if her affirmation had been the key, a blinding flash erupted, illuminating the void. The shadows reverted, retreating, freeing themselves from her mind. The weight of Noah's unyielding struggle broke like chains around her heart. She was no longer powerless. She could reach him. The scene shifted again, revealing the altar drenched in shadow and water. But this time, Naamah stepped forward, her heart pounding, embracing the unknown. "Noah!" she cried, hoping her voice would reach him across the divide. "I'm coming for you." The rushing waters roared in response, thrumming beneath her feet. Visions of their past flooded her mind, quiet evenings, laughter, shared dreams, and heartbreaks. With every beat of her heart, those memories solidified into the foundation of her strength. But as she steadied herself, that sinister grinning figure began to materialize again. It grew larger, its shadows clawing at her, hungry for despair. "You are naive if you think you can win. What you unearth may bring ruin." But before Naamah could respond, the shadows exploded with a darkness that felt alive, coiling around her with blinding fury. She braced herself, the shadows pulling taut, fighting against her will. "I'll face whatever it is," Naamah declared, her voice laced with determination. The energy of her love for Noah rushed through her, and everything snapped. The shadows screeched, recoiling from the force of her resolve. Would she emerge unscathed, armed with the truths lurking behind the darkness? With one last explosion, the chamber heaved, and just as quickly, the shadows burst apart, scattering into the ether. Naamah was left breathless in the silence, teetering on the brink of something far greater than herself. But as she glanced ahead, filled with hope and trepidation, one question echoed within her: what new horrors lay hidden in the depths of secrets yet to unravel? The stillness enveloped her like a thick fog, and for a moment, Naamah let the silence wash over her. How had she escaped that relentless darkness? She felt a strange pull from within. The amulet hung heavier around her neck, as if it had absorbed her fear and transformed it into a beacon of hope, but the quiet was broken by a distant clang, metal grinding against stone. Alarm bells echoed in her mind. Was something lurking in the darkness still? "Naamah!" A voice. Soft yet hollow, echoing against the walls of her consciousness. "Is that you, Noah?" she called out, her heart racing. The shadows around her shifted, anxious at the mere mention of his name. She stepped forward, drawn toward the sound, each footfall echoing like a heartbeat in the oppressive silence. The source of the voice became clearer, a shimmer of light cutting through the dark veil that had surrounded her. Her pulse quickened. What if he was close? She reached out, her fingers trembling, desperate to touch him, to save him. Then, as if summoned by her urgency, the figure materialized. Noah stood there, drenched and worn but undeniably alive. His eyes were wide, reflecting a mix of terror and unyielding determination. The floodwater swirled around him, lapping dangerously close to his feet. "Naamah!" His voice broke through the tension, filled with both relief and urgency. "You have to get out of here." Panic clawed at her throat. "I won't leave you." "No, listen." He took a step closer, the whirlpool of shadows pulsing around him, grasping for his essence. "You have no idea the forces you're dealing with. But I can break this cycle." She yelled back, her conviction bubbling over. "We can face it together." His eyes narrowed, concern etching lines on his face. "This isn't just about us. It's bigger than you can understand." Before she could respond, the shadows surged in again, the sinister figure creeping back into view. It wore a semblance of a smile, the same toothy grin that sent chills down her spine. "Do you think you're strong enough to protect him? Or will you, too, become a prisoner of despair?" "Shut up!" Naamah yelled, defiance rising within her like fire. "You can't have him." But the figure merely laughed, the sound echoing against the stone walls. Its laugh twisted, coiling into a snide whisper. "What if I show you a memory? A truth that will shatter your hope?" Noah's expression turned grave. "Don't listen to it, Naamah. It feeds on fear. It wants to twist you. But curiosity gnawed at her, an insistent specter within her mind. Show me. She shouted, steeling herself against the uncertainty. In an instant, the shadows exploded into vivid images. Bloodied scenes unfolded before her, a younger Noah in a crumbling house, a woman his wife. Screaming, her pain reverberating through the air. Naamah's heart sank. I didn't know. Noah. She cried, desperate to interrupt the nightmare. You were tormented by this? The shadowy figure leaned closer, delighting in her anguish. This is the truth, Naamah. He carries their burden and yours. He let darkness in. Do you really think you can save him? But as she refused to let despair take root, Naamah felt strength bubbling up within her once more. No. I will not let your lies define us. The images faltered, just for a moment. She took that as her cue, stepping between the figure and Noah, resolve fierce in her heart. You don't own us. And just as she gathered her energy, another twist of darkness threatened to consume the altar. The ground trembled beneath her, a warning tremor. Naamah's breath caught. She needed to act fast. Let us break this bond. Together. She called to Noah, her spirit igniting like a wildfire. As he met her gaze, she saw flickers of life return to him, the darkness finally giving way. But the looming presence behind them swelled larger, an ominous force unwilling to let them escape. Would they break free from the chains of their past, or would the truth consume them both? Naamah's heart raced as the shadows encircled them, pinning them within the storm of revelations. In this battle, she realized there was more than just history at stake. There were future choices that could reshape their fate forever. Could they withstand the storm, or was this only the beginning of their darkest chapter? Naamah felt the shadows swirling menacingly around her, wrapping tighter as the malevolent figure sneered from the depths. Noah was fighting, she could see it in his eyes. He was slipping, the darkness clawing at him, reaching deep like roots in the soil. She couldn't lose him, not like this. Noah! She yelled, desperate for his full attention. We have to face this together. Whatever it is, we have to break this cycle. His eyes brightened momentarily. Together he murmured, the words breaking through the flood of shadows. It has to start with us. The entity laughed, a sinister sound echoing through the empty chamber. Foolish love cannot save you. Choose your loyalty wisely, the truth is dark. Can you handle it? Naamah swallowed a lump in her throat. I don't care if it shatters me. I will not let you take him. She charged forward, arms outstretched, pushing through the shadows as if they were a heavy fog. In that moment, the shadows hesitated, flickering at the edges of her resolve. The dark figure thrashed in irritation, and the air thickened with a tension so palpable she could hardly breathe. Noah, hold on! She shouted, pulling strength from every memory they had shared. Their laughter, hope, and love became a tidal wave surging through her, driving the darkness back for just a heartbeat. No! The shadow entity spat, as if her boldness had cut it. You think love will protect you? True chaos lies ahead if you relinquish the light. Naamah didn't look back, but pressed on, the fire ignited within her burning brighter than the gathering shadows. Whatever it takes, she replied, unwavering. We'll face it together. Noah nodded, a glimmer of hope reflected in his eyes. I trust you, he replied, a steadiness replacing the tremor in his voice. You're the key. The shadows recoiled, a low growl vibrating through the air. You were foolish to think you could overpower me, it hissed. Truths buried deep will eat you alive. With every ounce of strength, Naamah's whole being surged as she yelled, then bring it on. In response, the shadows writhed chaotically, swirling above them. She felt a surge of energy pure and tangible, illuminating the depths of the room. The entity's chilling laughter faded, replaced with a tumult of roaring winds echoing around them, rattling the walls like an earthquake. Light flashed around the chamber, illuminating images from the past. Naamah glimpsed fragments of Noah's memories, the torment, the shadows that had cloaked him since childhood, the decisions that had led him down a dark path. She saw the altar again, the pact made in desperation flooding her senses with truth. "Stop!" she roared, determination swelling within, fueled by love. "Whatever pact you made, we will break it. I won't let you claim his soul." As the shadows surged forward, she sensed the light congealing at her core. "Noah!" she called out, extending her hand as he stepped forward, uniting their strength. They merged their energy, and to her astonishment, she could feel the boundary crumbling between them and the shadows. A tempest of light erupted, engulfing the darkness, sending the haunting laughter of the entity spiraling away. Together they shouted, hearts aligned as one. The pulse of their connection melded, creating a brilliance that pierced through the oppressive shadows, forcing them to retreat, recoiling into the depths from where they came. The echoes of despair morphed into something beautiful as the shadows screamed in frustration. They were gaining ground, and the altar began to glow brightly, resonating with the vibrations from their unity. "Naamah, you did it!" Noah gasped, awe painting his features as they pressed further into the light. "Not just me," she responded, pushing the last remnants of fear away. "We're in this together." With one final shudder, a surge of immense energy radiated from their combined force, unraveling the darkness in one explosive flash. Moments later, silence reclaimed the space, leaving swirling remnants spinning slowly in the air like dust settling after a storm. Naamah and Noah stood together in the emptiness, heartbeats echoing loudly against the heavy silence. No shadows. No malicious figure looming before them. "Is it over?" she breathed, her voice breaking the stillness. Noah took her hands, holding on tightly as their breaths began to synchronize. "It is. But we will have to face the future without the shadows clouding our past. It'll take time. I'm ready. You and me, always." He smiled softly through the weight of everything they had just endured. They were different now, unshackled from the burdens once tethered to their souls. "Let us rebuild, explore our truths, and share the love we have." Naamah chuckled lightly, the warmth of hope flooding her chest. "The real truths that matter, right?" "Right." Noah echoed, both of them now armed with the strength to embrace whatever lay ahead. They turned together, stepping away from the chaos, hand in hand as dawn broke. The sun pierced through the remnants of night, dazzling brightness flooding their world and their hearts. They would not forget, and they would not shy away from the struggles ahead. With renewed purpose, they headed into the light, a bright future awaiting their courage to weather the storms of truth together. And as they descended the hillside, the ominous clouds finally parted, revealing the clear blue skies for what felt like the first time. The world felt whole again. This is the moment you need to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood that comments section with your reactions and theories about this gripping conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how it all ends. Your support means everything.